Hello, I'm Professor Kyle.
I'm Dr. Alex.
Today we'll be talking about Rome's influence on Turkey.
Yum. Turkey.
Not that Turkey, but specifically Rome's influence on Turkey.
Like Hadrian's Wall in Anatolia?
Yes, Hadrian's Gate was constructed by the Roman Empire Hadrian. Many famous people have visited, including Queen Sheba and King Solomon. She apparently passed under it when she was going to meet him, but the gate itself was constructed hundreds of years after their deaths.
Wow, that's really interesting. Did the Romans have any other influences on government?
Yes, they made the city of Ankara a central administration point in the east. Later on, the Byzantine Emperor Theodosius would move his council to the city. In the end, Ankara would become the capital of Turkey in modern-day world.
What's a Byzantine?
They were an empire that were the Romans' descendants in the east, who had, after the west fell, they would go on to rule for another hundreds of years.
Did they build anything else?
Yes, the Byzantines would go on to build many of Turkey's modern-day landmarks like the Hagia Sophia.
Anything else?
Yes, the Roman Emperor Augustus removed Turkey's wartime debts, encouraged settlement, built roads, and an abundance of agriculture. This period of peace and prosperity would allow the Turks to rebound from some of their worst natural disasters that would still affect the country today if it was not for these new improvements on infrastructure and agriculture.
So, Professor Kyle, what was the first Mithridatic War about?
The First Mithridatic War was about the kingdoms of Pontus and the, at the time, Republic of Rome going to war with one another. At first, it began between Pontus, which was the dominant power in Turkey at the time, ruled in northern Turkey and controlled parts of the Ukraine and some of the rest of the Black Sea, primarily Crimean Peninsula, though. Eventually, the war started over Pontus's goals in the Balkan Peninsula.
Alright, interesting. And how did Rome play a role in this war?
Rome, which had its own ambitions at this time, would begin to kind of, it was kind of like a series of events, but eventually conflict would have resolved because these two powers pretty much want the same thing. They want the same territory in like Greece. I believe it was actually Pontus which started the war.
And what was the second Mithridatic War about?
The second Mithridatic War was when King Mithridates retreated back to Pontus and was still kind of angry at Rome. It kind of resulted in conflict again with them, which in the end, Rome defeated Pontus once again and made Turkey a client state.
And who were the important people in this war?
They had Soli, who was the first sole ruler of the Roman Republic. He was the first, sort of empire, even though he wasn't officially crowned. And then they also had Pompey the Great, who was a member of the first triumvirate in the Third War, along with Caesar and Crassus.
And what was this third Mithridatic War about?
The Third Mithridatic War was when King Mithridates retreated to Armenia, and his son took over control of Pontus. He was angry at his son, so he would later on go on to attack that and start another war with Rome, since Pontus was a client kingdom at the time.
Well, that's very interesting.
What about the largest city in Turkey, Istanbul?
Istanbul was originally in Byzantine, and it wasn't until the Byzantine Emperor, Constantine, would rename it after himself Constantinople that would see some of its major development, such as the landmarks Hagia Sophia, as previously mentioned, and the Hippodrome. Eventually, it was conquered by the Ottoman Turks and renamed Istanbul, which would remain their capital for several hundreds of years afterwards.
Interesting.
Aren't you a doctor?
Yeah?
So why aren't you helping?
I'm a doctor and accountant.
Did you get your degree online?
Yeah.
Get out.
Any other influences on the government?
Yes. The Romans made the... I don't know this part. I didn't read this. Didn't read this far. I mean, you're obviously going like, any other influences on Turkey?
We're recording! What did they build?
They built
What about the largest city in Turkey, Istanbul?